This is the Harbor Management Commission's Mooring Committee meeting, November 9, 2021, starting at 4:02 p.m. This call is being recorded, and we are leaving the line open on this call. We're assembled in Conference Room 1 of Sullivan Independence Hall. Today, Harbor Master Brian LeClerc, Kim Taylor, Jeff Stedman, and Commissioner Jack Herschler are in attendance.
Jeff Engborg is around.
Jeff Engborg is arriving, I guess. Yeah. Okay, I haven't seen him yet. On today's agenda, the first item on our agenda is a report from our new Harbor Master. This is your first Mooring Committee meeting. Welcome to the Mooring Committee.
Thank you.
And look forward to your report.
Thank you. So if you could help me traditionally, I could tell you what I've done since I've been appointed. I wasn't sure what you'd want out of a report, how much info, but since appointed as Brian LeClerc, the new Harbor Master, I registered with the state, have done all the paperwork. I've been out to the harbor. Actually, I went out with the Pequot. I pulled my dinghy already for the year. I was out at Pequot twice now, once with Jeff and once with Travis, going along all of the moorings just to get a very good handle on what we have out there, counting them so I have the right number of moorings, trying to reconcile them against some of the online mooring maps and charts and pictures so that we don't make a mistake. You know, there are 82 of them, despite what the pictures may show and despite how they're labeled and what color they are. I believe we have one available mooring right now with no boat assigned for the current year. It appears that there are 4, but I believe there are permitted boats in 3 of them that we'll talk about after the meeting. I think they came in over the summer. One of which I know was across from me in the harbor, a new 26 Capri, which I know is brand new in the harbor this year. He's also listed on the paperwork as having come up off the waiting list and was pending approval. I think he just didn't have a harbor master, but he was given a spot. I have a great understanding now, I believe, as to what boats are where and why. I met some wonderful people out there. Fixed the flag on the flagpole twice.
Do you know that it's not supposed to be at the highest point?
Correct. It's supposed to be off the yard arm, if that's the correct.
Yeah.
The gaff staff. Yep. And I had it replaced. I had the town, and they went out there right away and fixed it. I went up there when I was there this weekend. It had slipped a little bit, so I adjusted them. To the happiness of some folks in the harbor who came over saying, "We love seeing the flags where they belong."
Yep. Good. Thank you.
Met a number of the voters. It always bothers me if the flags are wrong. It's a personal thing. I spent some time with online mooring twice now going through, walking through the reports to understand how they do things. I've been through most of the form letters, where they've set up the data fields and the merge fields. I have to just go through a couple of more of them to make sure they match with our new rules. What else have we been doing? That's it, just coming up to speed. I mean, a bunch of questions we'll talk about after, as I went and looked at certain things on the website to make sure I understand what we have. But things are going well so far. Getting
Good.
Used to
Great.
everything. So it's,
Great.
I was mentioning before we got on the recording that it appears that folks are receiving reminders that the Connecticut State Boating Certificate personal watercraft requirements. Good. That was something that I believe that prior Harbor Master had sent out in something like May.
He did last year, and I tweaked it a little because I went on the DEEP website and I talked to them about it. I said, because I looked at my personal one from 20 years ago whenever it came out, and I said, you track these, or how do people, what if I lost it? Luckily, I know where mine is. A lot of people don't. There's a way you can go.
Right.
Oh, good.
And recreate.
Yeah, I ended up doing that, and it's a long, slender kind of a thing that they give you, which I then laminated so I wouldn't lose. So, but it's important that we give folks that heads up because it's going to be needed in January.
And they can take the class now too. They have something, in the next few months there are online classes because of COVID. They can get their certificates. And a few reached out. They have the personal watercraft, but not the safe boating. But of course, as you know, you needed your safe boating to get it. And I told 2 of them so far, don't worry. If you have a personal watercraft, you obviously have a safe boating. I'm not going to say no.
I think they're considered to be the same.
Yeah, but folks have been worried. Some folks are worried.
Sure.
What if I can't find it? That's not a real concern.
You wear that, Jeff? the PW, the personal
It's
watercraft.
pretty easy to get it though, because you go on the state site and put your driver's license in there, and they know, they send it right out to you, so.
But my recollection is, years ago, they were issuing personal watercraft certificates, which, to your point, encompass the safe
The
boating.
double class, you took
And
the safe
so
boating
some
and then the
That I
next.
know, but you can get your proof of going by just going online.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
There's a P number that they give you.
right.
I figured I'd give people something to do for a while, to try to,
Right.
so no one is shocked on January 1st yelling they can't find it.
Right. Let me also mention that Harry French has joined us. I was not sure that he would be here. Welcome.
Did you have the, no.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
The 26th of October,
Great,
so.
great.
Doing well.
Wow.
He's got a safe boating?
Yeah.
That's a little older.
I have to upload it.
There you go.
I can picture before you lose it.
So the next thing I had put on the agenda worth talking about, particularly because our rules are updated, and by the way, I confirmed with the town clerk today that the town website does show under the new laws, the new town code that's been adopted, in a separate section, it shows the changes to Chapter 24 that have been adopted by the RTM. They do not show when you just go in and pull up Chapter 24 along with the rest of the electronic code on the system, but it is there. So we are all set now for operating under the updated Chapter 24. But the second thing on our agenda is to let's talk through our readiness. Here we are in mid-November for the January 1, or right in the first week of January, automated renewals that are going to go out under the new rules. So, for example, we got one master for the Pequot Yacht Club, and to make sure they don't do anything with the people who formerly had individual moorings in the North Anchorage, and make sure that that logic is there. I also was thinking this morning, it's not clear to me, since we didn't have the RTM's approval on the changes to Chapter 24, I don't believe that we sent online mooring the updated fee table.
No, that's one thing I had on my list.
Okay, so we need to get back with that.
Make sure I know what it is, and we.
And that the $10 fee for people on the waiting list, they have the document showing them that was approved, and now.
It's actually 50,
Uh,
not 50.
No,
Just to maintain a spot on the waiting list,
$10,
we're
right.
now going to charge $10.
Oh, you're correct.
Yeah, but
Correct.
initially
Your
to get
initial
on,
50,
yeah,
correct,
yeah.
Yeah.
so we need to, I think that the code says that it says 50 plus the $10 at issue and then at every renewal. So I think the logic should be, it should be actually 60 when they renew.
Right.
And then 10 at every January after that.
And while we're talking, one thing did come up, because, Jeff and I spoke about the North Anchorage, and a good way to do it is we talked about just a simple spreadsheet where I will issue, their 51 stickers. And I'll come back to the stickers in a second. I had an idea on that. I will give them the 51, and they'll give me a spreadsheet with the information I need, updated perhaps weekly, or if there's changes I need to know about it. And that's a simple way for us to keep the data, in the event I needed that information. It's simpler than having Jeff, have to go online and enter everything somehow manually, I would think. So I don't know if we have a way to do it on the system.
We were not.
When I run the occupancy report, I don't get the North
I think it was
Right.
clear we weren't going to be using online mooring
Okay.
to keep track of that. So
Not there
you
now.
and Jeff are going to have to agree on a scheme like what you've described.
But online had a question, and I didn't answer it. I just kind of listened. They said, well, we charge $6 per mooring right now. Is there a fee?
Yeah.
They said, are we charging Pequot $6 or 51 times 6?
Pequot doesn't pay the $6, the town does. Pequot is paying the mooring fee of the highest thing on our schedule, because we can't control what size boat they put out in the moorings.
Okay.
And so we'll still incur, I was assuming that we would still incur the charge for those moorings, because the mooring tackle records are still being maintained by Pequot for all those 51 moorings. So there's going to be a record for all those 51.
But they'll have those of the records, but.
No, those records have to be
Online.
kept in the online mooring system, and
Okay.
he's got permission to go into the system
For the mooring.
for the mooring tackle
tackle.
maintenance.
Okay.
Because that's the whole harbor, that's not just the North Anchorage.
But we may not have to pay them 6 times 50, whoever's paying us, or
Okay, well, that we'll have to talk
we'll have to, they
about.
just raised that as a question, are you gonna give us 6 for all?
It seems like if they're keeping track of
I
the
don't know what your deal
tackle,
was.
they should get their
Yeah,
$6.
yeah.
it seems like, we didn't have that discussion with them, but they're keeping records for all 51 of those mooring locations.
They raised the question, though.
Good point.
Do you want to be at 6 or at 306? So I just stay quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think we should.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to keep the tackle records for the whole harbor of the system, so.
Well, yeah, having it all in one place
For tackle.
only makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they said we're going to keep doing it. They just didn't know what they were supposed to charge us to do that.
Oh, I'm sure they.
They
They had an opinion about it, but they haven't talked to us about it. Okay.
And I was thinking of the stickers this year, before I forget.
Yeah.
Instead of just randomly assigning them by numbers, I was going to have them, and I talked to Granville Printing about this, have them made up. So, for instance, we have, MW, 1 through whatever, and have the stickers have MW01 through whatever. So if your boat happens to be LH2, that's the sticker I send you, whether you're the first or the last one to send your materials in this year. So at least now I know if I'm out there whose boat, if someone says there's a boat on my mooring, I can say, well, if you're sitting out there now, what's the number on the back of it? To find out maybe you're off if you're calling me, or he or she is off. And it would make a little more sense, I think, because we know I know where they are, and you know where they are. So if you see a boat, a member calls, someone's in their spot right away, you can figure out whose boat that is pretty quickly. So the same, if you have no objection, an easier way to track the boats that are in there.
I don't know, administratively, if that's gonna make you crazy or not. I mean, just because you have to keep track of,
Right.
easy, before it was, the approval came in and you mailed out the sticker.
Right.
Now you're gonna have to.
Well, it comes in, I just have to go through the right
Yeah.
sticker, but it's only one extra step. If
If you like it,
I thought it would be helpful for all, at least give it
I
a shot
agree.
this year to keep track of.
I agree.
The discussion we had previously, after starting with online mooring, is many harbors decide not to use stickers at all anymore because a harbor master can go out with their laptop and see which boats are supposed to be on which moorings,
Right.
and it avoids the postage of sending everybody a sticker, and we've already migrated our annual report that used to be sent out with the stickers to be electronically mailed to people using your system. So the discussion we had was whether you want to even continue using them at all. I support whatever you decide you'd like to do on this.
I would think that would help Pequot as well. There are stickers on the boats, in the harbor, so you folks know. That would be great. It seems.
Let's try it. I think it's a great idea.
The only thing that you might have as an issue would be if any of the boats move around within that North Anchorage.
I don't really care about the North Anchorage as harbor master, as long as the boats in North Anchorage, I can make them 1 to 50 or 1 to 51.
You write the ones outside the.
I don't need to know exactly where they are, whether it's A, B, C, I've used
Because
both.
that would be.
Unless you want me to label the stickers for the North Anchorage with the row and the numbers, as opposed to 1 to 51, it's up to you.
I think keeping it flexible works.
Okay, that's fine.
And that was the motivation for making the change in the first place for the North Anchorage.
And I'll just have blank ones made too, with the year, with nothing, so if a boat moves or a new boat comes in, someone gets rid of their boat, I'll give a new sticker, handwritten with the number and a Sharpie, so that we'll have. And it might help people to get their moorings mixed up all the time. I mean, certain people go and can't seem to remember where their moorings are, so.
Sure.
Did Frank
Other
give you an estimate, Brian, of the extra cost? He said he's gonna have to punch those numbers in himself.
Yeah, he did. I'll find out.
Just ask him, because he was gonna tell us what the added cost would be for the stickers.
So if it's not cost prohibitive.
That's fine.
Sure.
I guess the other thing, we can have no numbers on them. I guess I'll ask him that too, if I have them with no numbers and just the year, and I handwrite the numbers. And that's another alternative. Well, just, whoever's done, I look at your boat, Mr. French, and I go up and write it for them.
Or you could even color code them for every section of the harbor, you can have a separate color. And,
But then you get the years mixed up.
yeah, that's true too. Yeah, then you have to have,
I just thought it may not work. I thought about not having stickers, and I just thought that might, I don't know, if some ownership, or you have a sticker, you have, the club knows whose boats belong, and we can keep track easily if the colors match. At least they're in the right harbor for the year.
So the questions for the changes that are in my head were, should we be giving a heads up before the renewal goes out to people who are on the wait list that there's going to be, that the town has now approved instituting the $10 per year renewal fee. for people who want to stay on the wait list?
I think that.
Or do you just wait till January?
That's a simple email I could send out.
Yeah, and it's got all their emails, and it's just a question of whether we should let folks know.
Yeah, no, it's easy enough to do, is my point.
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
telling them twice, tell them before and tell them when it's time to renew, they won't be shocked when they get to that requirement on the.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, how is the club dealing with we just need to coordinate with the club with respect to prepping folks for what's going to be different about under the new rules for people in the North Anchorage who are going to continue to be in the North Anchorage. So we're not going to want to send renewals to anybody who had this year, been in the North Anchorage.
Do we send them, because it's funny, when I run the occupancy report, I don't get a North Anchorage when I run.
In December, under our old
Yeah.
rules, would tell you who is going to be putting into the North Anchorage for the 51 moorings, right? That was the scheme.
Right.
And then the harbor master would send renewals to all of those people in January. But we're not doing that anymore, and folks should just be aware that they're not going to get anything from you. You're going to deal directly to issue one permit to Jeff.
Right.
For
One permit, 51
So
stickers.
have you guys talked about communication of that to you?
Well, I think a lot will hinge on what the deadline is, because the club will have to be a period of time ahead of the town in order to get this new change implemented and everything. So I would like to start a month and a half, 2 months ahead of where the deadline is, so that I can do all that.
Do we need to know?
You don't need any records from him other than his spreadsheet of which boats he's put on the moorings. You're issuing him one permit.
And I can
that
issue
gives
the
him-
permit technically as soon as they apply and pay for the permit.
You're
Can I not
done.
issue it even if I don't know who the boats
Right.
are at that
Right.
point?
That's right.
Right.
So you'll-
Until you start putting boats on the moorings, he doesn't need to know which boats you're putting on.
Right.
No,
And then I can email you once a week,
Right.
twice a week, whatever, if
Yeah.
it stays the same, or, because
Right.
once we get into the basic setup, there's only 1 or 2 or 3 moving parts, then they're really easy to keep track
Yeah,
of.
I don't need all that
What
to
do you
issue
want?
your permit.
Right,
I can
nothing,
issue the permit.
nothing.
Right.
And then you
need a check and
I need a check and
that's it.
that's really just your
Big
check.
check.
It's a big check.
Right, the rest of it,
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, when you want to give me the names, just do it. If you have until April.
and then he's gonna keep the hard records of
Right.
people's, all those documents and stuff, but
We can tweak it, whatever needs to work, we can change. It's a step in a more easy, in a less complicated direction, which is great. And
Yeah.
whatever system you want, we can do.
Yeah, we'll come up with a spreadsheet.
So my question is more immediate and stupid.
Okay.
I'm wondering who should tell the people who
Who
are
should tell the
with
members
permits
of North
that in the
Anchorage?
North Anchorage now, that the world is changing for them, and they're gonna work directly with Pequot, period, the end now, and not with you, and it's a harbor master instituting new
Yeah.
rules. I don't know whether it should come from the harbor master or from Pequot Yacht Club. That's my question.
Well, let me back up a bit. When you introduced yourself, were you able to send to the North Anchorage folks too?
I don't think so, because when I sent it out, I used the current mooring holders
Right.
and the waiting list, and the mooring holders was only 78 names.
78, yeah.
It doesn't have those extra names, so I'm not,
They're North Anchorage mooring holders.
So I think-
It splits them out on your,
is it on the dashboard? Is it
on the
separate?
dashboard, it's a whole separate
I
category.
could communicate then. if
Yeah.
Of
I
course,
have
yeah.
sure.
it.
Everybody who's record in the system you can communicate with.
Yeah.
So the question is, should it come, I'm just asking. who should come from.
So my thought was, so if Brian hasn't introduced himself to
Yeah.
people in the North Anchorage,
Okay.
he could introduce himself and he can say, going forward, you're not gonna get a renewal from me, it's gonna come from the yacht club. But I'm still the harbor master.
But when you send that, Jessica's got a bunch of questions probably, so you may want to think of.
I'll put Jeff's email saying if.
Right,
This way they can
right.
communicate with you.
Right.
I'll tell them you'll be communicating with them directly for the renewal at the appropriate
Okay, yeah,
time.
and if Jeff
after
wants to
the
send an
new year.
email to members, he can do that.
Do you want to send it to them before I send it to warn them, or?
I think maybe from you, an initial introduction, and then if, when I send my email out, I could put a little copy of your letter, if you have like a generic, this is how we're gonna handle North Anchorage, I could,
Sure.
and you were signed at the bottom, I could include that as a second page to my 51 emails that go out.
I mean, it's a plus for Pequot, I mean, it gives the club a lot more flexibility. Right,
And you guys, less work for you,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
take,
yeah.
we only have 51 spots, no matter how we,
Right.
whatever we do.
Yeah.
only by 51.
Okay,
That much easier for everyone.
what am I not thinking about? What's different this year than past years that we're not thinking about? So it's the $10 fee for the wait list folks, it's the change to North Anchorage, There's no sort of
Boating, safe boating.
safe boating, we've already done
Oh, and I
that.
did talk to online, they are going to, whatever the word is, carry over the safe boating from year to year to
Yes,
year.
yes,
So that people don't have to dig it out every year and save it if they find
Yeah.
it doesn't expire. So,
right. The image
Yeah,
stays
it
out there.
doesn't
right, it'll always be there every year.
Right. You were gonna say something?
The other thing that's instituted or established now is the clarification of the one dock and/or mooring, and that doesn't guarantee every waterfront property owner a dock and a mooring, but it's to be determined. That's in the rules now, to take away what seemed to be on the part of some people, confusion.
Is that something that we should proactively communicate, and if so, to what audience?
I don't know, I don't know how to communicate it, but there was questions about that, but that's now, I have to find where we put that.
Well, there was a house on the harbor.
But it makes clear that not in all instances does a waterfront property owner have a right to a dock and a mooring. And that's determined based on, that's gonna be a judgment based on the specifics of the particular
That
property.
might be of interest to people on the waiting list. So maybe if you're sending a communication to the people on the waiting list, this is germane to people who are waiting because it affects how
Right,
long they have to
right,
wait,
Right.
right? I guess, that's the way to think of it. That's the good news for people on the waiting list is we have clarity about is everybody entitled to
Right.
waterfront property to a mooring too? Okay, so I guess that's the harbor master's judgment into whether or not to include that as a point for the wait list people.
Yeah, it's on,
7, it's Rule 7?
Okay, which will, it's under the riparian rights
Yeah.
section.
Okay.
it's on page 7 that I have, but
Where is it?
It's the very beginning of that riparian rights.
Right.
don't have
Is the policy of the harbor management
Yes.
plan limited to one dock or mooring immediately offshore of his or her property? This policy does not mean that owners are entitled to a dock and, emphasis added, mooring in all instances.
Right.
Uh,
So for folks on the wait list, that would be
Yeah,
a
you're right.
clarification to their benefit that the harbor master uses judgment to decide if it's really appropriate for them to jump in front of the folks on the wait list. That doesn't mean they always get to do that. It's not really a change, it's more of a clarification of the way, a clarification of what we were doing, but it should give comfort to people on the waiting list, I guess.
Does our waiting list art show folks that have an opportunity to jump ahead?
They just move to the top, and if you go into online moorings records, you'll see that they're either claiming to be a commercial fisherman or claiming to have riparian rights, which they don't stay on the top of the list if you disagree and change them to not riparian rights or to not a commercial fisherman. But if they've applied that way until you and they change it, it stays there and it puts them to the top of the list.
Oh, it does, okay, so.
But if there are multiple people with that priority, it puts them to the top of the list in the order in which they applied. So the second person asserting riparian rights would be number 2. I think right now you have a person at the number 1 position or 2 who's asserted commercial fisherman rights.
Right.
So we have to talk about that too at some point in this meeting. All right, so we're going to use decals. That was on my list. The communications have all been looked at that are automated communications, and there may be a couple more that you'll get to, Brian, is what I heard.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure some of the longer ones regarding the new rules, I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And your call on what you want to, I mean, we do need to make sure that online mooring has the fee table. Because I think we held off, Kim, it's my recollection, we waited to give it to them because we didn't yet have
Right.
the RTM's approval.
That's right, we needed the RTO.
And I don't know that
Right.
I don't believe they've got it yet, so they might need it to document the $10 at the bottom that needs to be charged at every renewal and at the time they first apply. If I
All the
remember.
other charges are the same, the 150, 200?
Well, the North Anchorage is a big change, but that.
Well, no, but.
All the others have
that's
unchanged.
1,200,
Right.
But then the same with the
Right,
permit applicants, the 160 to 255.
right. And then, Jeff, this is a question I think for you that came to my mind. Are we required as a commission to approve updated fee tables every year, or this one says it's dated 2021, and do we need a 2022 dated fee table, or I couldn't find it in the rules, I couldn't find it in the town code.
The fee is established when
When it's established.
when it's established. And
Right.
we can publish the fee schedule again, but I don't
It's not
think there's any
required. Okay.
requirement to vote on it.
So the
Yeah.
most recent one you've got is the one that you've got there, Brian. Just so you know. Right, it looked like we had to follow, the town code says we have to follow the rules for getting them approved. We did that
Yeah.
last fall, so we're all set on that regard. Okay. Am I missing anything else with respect to renewal? I'm trying to think.
I'm trying to think too, I think.
I don't know if this is the right, Brian mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that, I think I heard you say that there's one space available.
I believe we have one space available right now, SW7, because MW7, MW11, and SHO4, who appear to be available, I think have actually been assigned to boats, but it just needs me to approve to confirm that they're in those. Their applications are under review.
Yeah, we were going to
And I wanted-
administratively after the meeting, look at those.
We're going to go over that, because I didn't want to just click here and accept. I think that's where we are based upon, I know at least,
Yeah,
you
these
know.
were the transitional issues right in the last week.
You don't want, I have a question about the moorings that might be in the federal channel.
Yeah, I had that on the agenda
Oh,
here.
okay, if that's
Yeah,
done,
that's-
okay.
we haven't gotten to that one yet.
Sorry.
Okay, so we have an agreement sort of coordination between Jeff and Brian with respect to
Well,
this.
we got this under control.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about this at all.
Okay. Jeff, do you have any update with respect to the the annual tackle maintenance? Which of the three segments are on schedule for this week?
We're in the North Anchorage servicing segment. It goes North Anchorage, South Helix, and Wall. So we just did the Wall last year,
Okay,
and now we're doing the North Anchorage. We've already today they lifted up all the mushroom anchors in A and half of B. So in about another 3 or 4 days to a week and a half, we should have all the mushrooms out of the mud and the North Anchorage winterized as well. And then we'll keep you posted, or we're not sure what we need to do to the parts until we take them out and inspect them.
got it. So, Brian, this is the first time that Pequot will be in a position to have done an inspection and enter the results of that, which Jeff, I hope now, has access to that part of the system.
I was wondering about that. I saw there's the inspection tab.
Right, so we need to,
And
because
I'm
those,
hoping we can work with them to streamline a little bit, because right now there's a lot of redundancy there. We do have
I noticed.
standardization out there, so I would hope that we could maintain the records with some of the standardization rather than the individual list. Otherwise there's 900 entries. But we can talk about that. And we fully document everything, so it's not hard to keep track of. It's just hard to get in there. And we might be able to work out a deal with them too, that we grab our whole thing and paste it in. Or we can, whatever you want to do, we can do, but I think there's a more clear way to do it.
so if you work out a work order with Jen, they'll send me the quote if they're gonna charge us to do that. So I think the right way for us to handle it, you two guys figure out what makes sense for the most efficient way going forward forevermore to update the mooring tackle record keeping, which we're obligated to be on top of, and the town owns it, so we have to be on top of it. But whatever way makes sense, and if it requires enhancements to online mooring, Kim and I are gonna get a bill, so we just need to give us a heads up on what you guys decide, and we'll get a work order from them sent from them to us. Okay. Anything else on that?
And Brian, you're welcome to come by and look at the tackle on land and see what we're doing and what our stuff looks like. And sort of a modest way, I want to say that the North Anchorage hardware is beefier than everything else, because we have the ability to purchase more. We basically have twice the anchors that the town does in town areas, because we've doubled up on everything. We have to, because it's so tight back there. We have to have one or less scope on some moorings. But I'm glad to go over all that stuff with you.
And then Travis provided some great documentation. I mean, really detailed records with pictures and quite an impressive binder he gave me with keeping track of the moorings and what's going on and things in the harbor. So
With the wall moorings that slipped, I guess, I thinking to myself, I'd be receptive to hearing about recommendations to do whatever kind of beefing so that we're not criticized by our voters for not having the maximum kind
And there
of.
was one mooring that did slip in that questionable area, that catboat's bow, I can't remember, it's not, we can talk about it, but that moved a little bit, maybe 10 feet. It didn't move completely, but that would be something that we may want to address.
And is that,
Was that the one that was my old mooring?
No, it's one behind your old mooring, one north of your old mooring.
and was that the same place where they, in the storm?
Yeah,
Last
that's the same
summer.
row, but it's not all of the boats.
Right.
But we also decreased the wind signature of that row by moving some boats to other
Okay.
known beefier moorings. It was a nice named storm when it was coming. So that also helped to relieve some of the stress.
But I agree with Jack, if there's anything that you think is, needs to be upgraded and strengthened, I mean, these storms that we're seeing are only gonna
I agree.
be more frequent, and, it's awful tight in there, so
Are
we'd be open to
Are
that.
helixes an alternative as a better holding to put in here and there along that row?
That row has a lot of ledge, so helixes aren't really great there. And helixes basically address a failure mode that we really didn't have. With the right mushroom anchors in two of them, the mushroom won't move too. It's, I think the reason why they went to helixes originally in this harbor is because we had a one-to-one scope issue, and that would be one anchor per boat, and they could go straight. But we found out that there's more ledge than we thought. Even the South Helix area, there's a lot of ledge area that we had to switch over to mushrooms to get, because we just couldn't get the penetration with the helixes. So it depends on the area. Along the wall, that's generally where there's a lot of ledge.
Maybe we need extra moorings or double up even. We could talk about
Weight or
increasing.
pyramids even an option, or some pyramids?
The pyramids don't have as good a holding capacity with this short scope, which is a problem with pyramids. But the good thing is, when we do service your mushroom anchors, there are so many of them that we can repurpose the population that makes the most sense for the population.
Okay.
But right now, since it's not the lifting cycle for that area, we would simply just add an extra mooring next, either pull that one out and go with double, or pull it out and go with a single big one, whichever one you want. So we've got a bunch of different ways to go at it. Luckily, well, I don't think it's that expensive, and
Well, we can afford it.
Yes.
We can afford it.
we don't want any boats on the.
Right, whatever is
Right,
most
right.
effective, but, I don't know, I'm not gonna, whether it's two or a bigger one, whatever.
That area is kind of scary because it keeps changing, and I don't know if it's a function of the sand or what the function is, but over the years, it has changed quite a bit.
But two bigger ones, then, okay, at least you better be extra cautious if you don't know.
And also placing the boats, like we did, we moved Mr. French because his boat was big and it was moving the anchors, so we went to an area where the mud's much better around the corner, and so there are other alternatives.
Now he bumps into me on the way out, it's okay.
He means literally bump. All right, so I think we're at the point, so we're talking at least about South Wall 00, which is Mr. Goldstein.
Can I ask a question about the mooring?
Oh, sure, yeah.
The tackle inspection?
Yes, I'm sorry.
30 years ago or so, we talked about publishing minimum standards for mooring tackle. But things are different now. The Yacht Club is the contractor to do the inspections, and you do your inspections according to your professional judgment as to what the standards should be. Right, so is there any need anymore for the commission to refer in the plan to the commission's minimum standards for mooring tackle?
No.
And that affects, our update of the harbor management plan. But how do we refer to that? The Yacht Club has its own standards, or how do we refer to the standards that we apply?
You and I talked about having the Yacht Club in their capacity as the manager of maintenance for the town's moorings to have them come present to us the status of after he's completed all the work connected to it, so that every year, whatever of the three different zones are being looked at, in the course of one of our regular harbor management meetings, we'd hear, since we own the tackle outside the North Anchorage, we'd hear about the town's tackle and also the condition that was found of the North Anchorage owned by Pequot, just to be comforted that it's being cared for.
They maintain the tackle that the commission owns according to standards.
To the harbor master, right? Wouldn't he be
Well,
on him too?
Well, it's deferred to you or delegated to you.
He has to be satisfied.
I have to be satisfied, so we have to, yeah.
Yeah, but don't we wanna refer to professional, use the word, some kind of professional standard?
I'm thinking of the plan.
As a policy statement, not as a,
Not a specific measure or weight.
Our policy that exists in the plan for 30 years is that the moorings would be maintained according to minimum standards for mooring tackle established by the Harbor Management Commission. We don't have that now.
yeah.
Are there
No.
standards by some other,
That's what I'm wondering how we refer to it. That's
Yeah,
all I'm
yeah,
asking.
yeah.
How do we
no one else
refer?
promulgates such standards, I would think.
Trouble is that they're not harbor specific. Each harbor's different, each
Yeah.
area is different,
South
so
bottom, harbor bottom, wind, currents.
everything.
My estimate should be the judgment of the harbor master.
I mean, some of these big yacht clubs, at Indian Harbor, for example, there's 80 feet of scope on a mooring, so you can use a 500-pound mooring to hold a 40-foot boat. Here in Southport Harbor, there's 1-to-1 scope, there's 20 feet of chain, so you need a bigger or a different anchor system, so.
I'm just searching for the language
The
to use
right
in the
words,
plan.
yeah.
And we can think about it, but it's not urgent for today, but.
I would think that it should be left up to the mooring maintenance contractor
I
that,
think in consultation with the harbor master.
in consultation with the harbor master.
Applying best professional standards.
professional
In
standards,
consultation
yeah.
with the harbor master, and that those would be reviewed with the commission annually or something like that.
The results of the
Yeah.
zonal.
And do we wanna refer to the mooring committee too, since it's our own
Yeah.
standing committee on, yeah?
Sure, yeah. I just feel like all the commissioners should hear this, though. I mean, it's a.
Oh, totally. I agree, and Jeff, we will, in the spring, ask you to come in.
Sure. Whatever you guys want to do.
Great.
Yeah, by then you just decided what you're gonna do, if any maintenance needed, based on everything you're doing right now.
Yeah, we'll have the, yeah.
Good,
And that'll all be in the system, so, you can say you've looked at it.
Good.
Right.
great.
All right, so the next thing was, which moorings are actually able to be reissued, and are they proper? So the one I was aware of was Southwall 00, which is the one that Mr. Goldstein's boat is on, but there may be more that are
I printed
concerned.
an occupancy report if you want them.
Okay,
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
That lists all,
yeah, so this would be
It's by
Southwall,
mooring.
yeah.
by mooring locations. sorted by mooring location.
SW00, yeah, Mr. Goldstein on Souffle would be that first one.
But this is an older photo, so I don't know that the existing conditions may be different, but the issue that we have to be cognizant of is at a point, and this covers up the lower, the town boatyard,
Yeah.
lower docks, but at some point here, the entrance channel ends and it becomes an anchorage. And that change was made at the recommendation of the commission to make sure that the boats along the wall were not encroaching into the channel. And so we've, in preparation for the Corps of Engineers helping us with this dredging project, we have to make sure there are no conflicts with their policy, which includes, among other things, that no boats can be moored in the channel. So when I have gone down here and tried to, that east dock that goes off here, I can't cite, because I don't know what the point is on the other side to figure out where the line is. But it seems that I think this is different now. But it seemed the last time I looked, that there's one and maybe two boats that are in the channel. But we need to have some sort of a line of sight to know where the channel ends and where the anchorage begins.
Too far to the outer harbor, too close, too far south, basically.
Yes, too far south. Now, on the map that Race Engineering did for us, they show that, where the channel ends and the anchorage begins. And that's not any sort of physical difference. It's just an administrative or legislative distinction.
Yeah, this shows,
That should be,
this one.
if that has the,
But this one doesn't show 00, but it shows 1, which, if this is is that the cut line, or is that
that's a cut line. So, I mean,
if you want to look at, here, that's helpful.
Remember when 00 was added?
It wasn't necessarily added, it was reconstituted. Remember, the commission said, don't rig that one because we think it's in the channel, so we didn't rig it. And put it into service, and Ed asked us to put it back into service, and we did, so.
Yeah,
This
I'm
is-
just
this
trying to
is-
figure out
this is
about
the
the
line.
numbering.
Oh, that's the line for the.
So there was a zero
The
before
channel
that?
test.
Channel
zero.
ends here, and then anchorage goes up.
The 0, must sit out here.
That
somewhere.
I don't know.
Got it.
That's why I'm trying,
Well, the south wall has 14, well, that's a good question. I see what you're saying, but they all got shifted back a little. Showing that that's the line beyond which is the channel, and the question is, where's 0, here? Or
Well, 0 is number one, because there's only, isn't there, doesn't,
There's 14 there,
when you count it, okay, well,
unless you scooched another one in. I don't,
if, this drawing here, though, is dated, what is it?
that's an older drawing.
That's an older drawing, it's 2012.
Right.
So this drawing was updated by Race at
oh, they have to.
sometime
Yeah.
after that, I think like 2015, 2016, so we'd have to
Oh,
look
hold
at
on a
that.
second. Is there a revised date on this thing, REV? 15.
Oh, that's 2015, okay, so that might be,
Yeah, that's the most current one I have, that I got from you, I think.
there's really another more, well, I can't, without looking at the records, maybe Ed did have us add another one on there,
That's
it's
a big
14.
space, though. That's a big
That's,
space.
well, this is really a cartoon, there's nothing really
Right.
like that here. That's one, it's hard to go out in the boat
Mm.
and realize where you are on the land unless we can measure it. So everything we put in the ground here is measured off the wall with a tape.
Mhm.
So we don't guess, we can't, and when you're on the boat, the vantage point is different than when you are in the sky or when you're on land. So if you would want to make sure that this boat and mooring are not in the channel, we'd need more information than these charts can give us.
What is the issue going to be? Let's just,
I can't issue a permit to Mr. Goldstein in January at that location if it's in the channel. That's why I put
The
it,
Army Corps will come in and say,
we
hey,
can't apply
Yeah,
for
we can't.
our dredging
okay, if
because
we have a boat in the channel.
Yeah,
But wouldn't they tell you that, or?
That's what I was getting at.
I don't
Will they
know,
come in and say you're off or you're,
They won't tell us that. They would expect us to manage the harbor according to their rules and policies. They won't go out to enforce anything, but if there's a conflict with their rules and policies, they'll just stop planning for the dredging project. But the rule is very simple, you know, you can't have a boat moored in the channel.
my sense of this one is, we've talked about this a lot, we need to just get whoever
Right.
raised out there and help us figure out if the 0 mooring and perhaps the 1 mooring, if they're not okay, tell us. If they are okay, tell us that too.
Yeah.
Because before we send out renewals in January,
it's actually a good thing, because we have 7 is open. So we
you
have
could
room,
slide,
we
so you
need
could
to
put
slide
Goldstein
everyone
back
out.
or something,
down.
right, or
Slide
slide
Mr.
it
Gold,
back.
put souffle in or slide them all.
Whatever, right, but let's find out before January, is my point.
Yeah.
But is now the time while that mooring is still in there, I think, right? It was,
Yeah, otherwise we would have to,
see where it is.
re-raise them. Remember, these moorings all get tied together and sunk to keep the ice from damaging them in boats, so that'll happen soon. So I think the time to do it would be in the spring. The time to really do it would be on the lift here, because before we put them back, we would just start the row right wherever that is. That would be the origin.
Right.
yeah, but,
We need to know before we submit our
And I don't know a
dredging.
whole lot about surveying, but could not they just put some sort of a benchmark, or not a benchmark, but a stake or a post on the other side so we could sight across if we're standing on the southern part of that eastern dock and know where the channel is?
Either that or put 2.
Well, you need an X and a
Right.
Y, you need 2 coordinates, and you need them to be 2 points rather than 1.
Yeah.
When you take a range, you gotta
Right. Well, I was thinking
on
if we
each
could
dock.
stand on the dock and it would be 1 point.
I mean, I could give you, this is Boy Scout stuff or Mariner stuff. We know where the north is, assuming this is right, assuming the dock is where it is in the picture. It's easy enough for us to figure what degree that line is. So someone could actually stand there with a compass. Any of us could stand at the end of the dock and look across and see where Souffle's ball is, and we give us some idea that,
But this this drawing does not accurately represent the dock itself. What this
Okay.
chart really is the channel lines that were surveyed by the Corps, and everything else is sort of a cartoon.
Is this something
There's
that
a
Ray should be
reference.
doing?
That may not be accurate.
What-
I thought it
Okay.
was done. I thought there was,
I can talk with Devin. We also have the Corps survey drawings too, which may be maybe more precise, I don't know.
But if we have to do something, it's before they drop the mooring chains for
Right,
the year.
And before
right.
January.
And
We
before
Well, not
January.
necessarily, because if that's the first mooring anyway, so that makes it easy to play with. It's not like in the middle of the string where you have to
Right,
move them all.
right.
So if you're gonna eliminate that anyway, it doesn't make that big a
I
difference.
think, to your point, the one is not a disaster, but if two of them are, that's gonna be complicated, because
Yeah.
we're gonna have to find
Yeah.
homes for both. And I
Yeah.
think those people would be the top priority.
Yeah,
right? If we
absolutely.
had to
But-
displace
but
them
then
for our own mistake,
But then on top of that, it creates all kinds of problems with dredging.
if we don't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
oh,
So
yeah.
I feel like we need to do.
Oh, we gotta do it.
Right.
We have to know.
I just would like to be able, when the Corps of Engineers people indeed come to do their site visit, that we can attest that everything is properly, everything is in order
You
in
keep them if you
the
want.
harbor.
Okay, I got one.
Absolutely.
But I can call Evan Pinnick and also get the Corps of Engineers survey drawings and see if those are more precise with the north.
Now, before Pequot drops the chain for the year off of that Souffle's bow mooring, so this one south, do we want,
Well, even drop, if I may interrupt, I'm sorry, but no matter when we go out there, as long as the club is ready to help you at any time. I think it doesn't really matter when we go there. We don't want to rush and be in a hurry, but even in the middle of winter, if we can go out there and locate that point from the land, and then I can go out on the boat, or my people can go on the boat, and we can take an accurate range our way.
okay,
From our point of view, we need to be right on that. In order to find out where that spot is, we have to be right at it with the boat and then take ranges.
okay.
So if we had people on the shore or even race on our boat, as long as we go there, then we'll take our low-tech data and we can duplicate it just like we do year after year. But we can't do that relative to the channel because it doesn't exist yet.
We should do it before January.
Absolutely.
You need to know whether you want to send Mr. Goldstein a renewal or not.
That's my point.
Right.
So we have to do it before
And
January.
it's possible, I didn't go back, who's SW01, that person possibly is a concern, I don't know.
You know what I might do too, and just talking without thinking,
You're right.
ask the survey crew here, they've helped us, they helped us with the survey of the plants, and see if they have suggestion, or if they could just go down and put a couple of markers for us.
Help us, right, whatever.
I'll ask them.
Yeah, we've talked about this, but I worry at renewal time here. You
Yeah.
start renewing people on places they can't go, that's not good, right? Okay.
What I can do in the meantime is before they decommission these moorings, I'll make sure that we have an updated range for the bow, for these
Perfect.
two boats.
First two.
Great.
For the three mooring, the bow, the stern, the bow, so that we can duplicate that later.
Because this is not an A2, so we don't know how accurate any,
Yeah,
you're
not-
saying, that could be anecdotal, that's where the building is not accurate.
Yeah, because they're just general reference. I was told that by Race, that the accuracy is the channel
Okay, that's good to know.
and the soundings.
I hate to even ask the question, but the high exposure added moorings out in the far south, are we confident that those are not in the channel?
You mean these three?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We have an accurate race drawing that gives dimensions from the
land.
lower wharf, that we know where the channel is. The
There's
channel
no
actually
way, huh?
is like 50 feet off the wharf.
And this guy out here, that one that's off,
This guy, you can see in Jeff's picture that it's clearly not in the channel.
that's that last one.
Yeah, you see how
right off
it's in
the-
that little hole that's cut?
Yeah. Okay. All right,
But-
so those are good.
And when you get out there, it's pretty apparent because of the speed buoy and the channel markers, you can
That's all.
actually
Right.
cite that. In
Yeah.
here, there's no government marks past here, so we don't know really what we're,
Yeah, I remember lining up with that flagpole as you came around that point
Yeah,
to come straight in. There was
yeah,
no
to
boat.
avoid the bump.
There was no boat that was blocking
Yeah.
that. Okay. All right, those are all the things I had in our existing business. I just wanted to make sure that we spent today's meeting in mid-November to be ready as we could be for January, especially because of the new rules.
This is gonna be the biggest issue, I think, we have to get resolved, with the souffle
And possibly that next one has to be
Yeah.
moved. Everything else is gold. The only reason it's a concern is because we're trying to get this dredging stuff from Army Corps moving forward. Okay.
I saw an ad, and I believe Jeff saw it too, in the patch for house for sale on Harbor Road
Yes,
that advertises a private deep water mooring.
yes. 8.13 million.
Who's the realtor?
I don't even know, but I think that's one of, is that
It's,
a North Anchorage mooring? I mean,
it's the house
Really doesn't.
just south of the stop sign
right,
where,
where Church Street comes in? Is it Church Street?
No, it's not
Rose
Church.
Hill?
Rose Hill.
Rose Hill comes in.
Rose Hill.
Off of Harbor Road. It's that house right there on the right if you're
Oh, I'm
heading.
sorry.
No?
No. When Rose Hill comes in, it's not what used to be the Kirkpatrick's house. It's the next house on the harbor side.
Where they did all that work on the driveway and
Yes.
they're reconfiguring the driveway.
Yes.
Just
And-
beyond, the entrance is just beyond the
and-
stop
and
sign,
they
right?
put
The
like
Brian.
a new
There's no-
deck out in front of
There's
it.
no
Right.
town moorings
Right.
in that area. There certainly are no town moorings that transfer with property.
Right,
If it's being marketed that way, then they
Come over
need,
here, it's by.
it doesn't matter where it is, there's no transferring of town moorings, so.
Right, oh, right.
And I can't imagine that they're marketing a Pequot Yacht Club mooring. And our rules are very clear that anybody who lives up this way is not getting a priority mooring under our new rules.
Well, if you see the picture, it shows
It
that,
shows the dock.
it shows the dock and the mooring.
Yeah.
What mooring?
It's a big ball sitting right off the dock.
This is something online.
There's no private moorings in the harbor
Right.
anymore.
Right,
But how many other real estate ads are out and you
Right.
can't
I don't know. That's
quality
why I was
sure of them
asking.
all? And-
but it was down, it's in the north end of the harbor and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harbor Road, Fairfield,
Interesting.
523?
8,137,523 Harbor Road, Caldwell Banker.
This is the harbor master pointing out the rules. They don't transfer, there are no private moorings allowed in the harbor.
That's the house I thought it was, yeah.
So the mooring shouldn't be there. Not
You
approved.
pass that around if you
Well,
want.
That's the
Yeah.
North Anchorage, there is a deep mooring.
Is that one of your
on that
moorings?
property, yeah, it's one of the North Anchorage moorings.
It's not their mooring.
Oh, it's not
It's
their
not their
mooring.
mooring. Okay.
Oh, okay.
They can't be
All right,
marketed-
so it's your
The
mooring.
realtor thinks it is.
They can't be marketing a Pequot Yacht Club commercial mooring. That's not theirs to market. That's ridiculous.
Right, this is what was in the patch.
So maybe a realtor who thinks there's another difference.
Well, we've had that.
Unless you have a member who that's their mooring.
They can't.
They just assume that, but they may not know the realtor, I know.
That's, a member doesn't own that house, I know that.
Okay, so that's not. What happened? Back to this one.
That's not to say if a member did move in there and was on our North Anchorage.
You wouldn't give them-
Oh, right,
We'd
right.
wanna give, that would make sense.
Right,
No
that's your
question.
call.
Right, but that's not doesn't come with a
It
mooring.
doesn't, the house doesn't come with a mooring.
Not from the town's rules, right?
There it is, right. Oh, that's an old ag, that's clear.
Yeah, but all right, so they got the dock.
I think they're talking about that mooring over there.
Yeah, no,
Which
that's,
is a Pequot, so that's not.
yeah.
It's not clear that all the realtors understand what a mooring is versus a dock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, sure, they may call the big thing on land the dock, and the mooring is
The float, right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you wanna talk to them?
Do I have to, should I?
Well, because we've already had an issue with this, and we've gone to pains to say that people with waterfront property, don't necessarily get a dock and a mooring. And this particular property, under our rules, would never get a town mooring.
Yeah,
This is north of the North Anchorage, and our rules say that those properties on the water are not suitable for mooring offshore, and so
Well, the realtor and tell them.
Yes, they shouldn't be marketed, right, just.
No misrepresentation made.
Apply to the waiting list for,
Absolutely, they can
Yeah.
apply.
They got a wait list, they can
Right.
join Pequot, they can do whatever they want.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And they have to speak to
Yeah.
Pequot about whether they would get a mooring then. Okay, anything else today? No?
The state has contacted me, I don't know if I told you, about Fairfield Harbor Master versus Southport Harbor Master.
right.
And I spoke with them about that, they said, yeah, this has been an issue for years, because we have other moorings off of Fairfield. I said, okay. They said, well, we need someone to keep track of them, someone to issue permits for those moorings, even though you can't charge money and we can't charge money. The governor decided we're going to appoint you to do both of them. And I said, why don't you do it yourself, Deep? And they said, we don't have a boat, which is interesting.
Neither do you, officially.
Why officially I said, they said, well, maybe you get the police boat to take you around periodically and go look. And we're really just concerned about, people have a way to get to the moorings, and they're not going to be trespassing because it is public property. I could put a mooring up at your house, at your house, at your house at Fairfield Beach if I wanted, and that the mooring is safe. And so it doesn't just drag and destroy other people's boats.
So what's your thinking about the fact that our rules now indicate that because of natural conditions that even outside of the inner harbor, within the harbor management area, we wouldn't ever give somebody a town mooring? And now you're being asked to be authorizing the very same conditions in Fairfield outside the harbor management area.
The harbor management area, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But it's the same conditions. In fact, I could argue there'd be worse conditions there
Much worse.
than around the
Definitely worse.
Much worse.
Right. So I don't know how you would get comfortable with that.
This was an issue not real long ago. It was brought up about the moorings off of Fairfield Beach. And Deep still retains, since they're not in a called harbor moorings, if they're outside of a harbor management jurisdiction or specific rules, they're covered by a general permit, which requires the person who wants to place the mooring to register with Deep, and Deep to make sure that there's no navigation issues. The Shellfish Commission was concerned about those moorings because there are natural shellfish beds, and so I prepared some materials for the Shellfish Commission and Deep, and there was an agreement reached between Deep and the Shellfish Commission. The Deep would not register applications or these registrations for these moorings without first checking with the Fairfield Shellfish Commission to see if the Shellfish Commission was okay with them. Probably everybody's forgotten about that, including the Shellfish Commission, because the conservation director that was placed then is no longer here. So that agreement has to be referenced. But in addition to dealing with those moorings, Brian, the harbor master has responsibility not just for moorings, but for the general safe and efficient operation of the area of jurisdiction. So there's an issue, as you may know now, in Ash Creek having to do with the navigation channel.
I did not know that.
Oh, it's an interesting one. The town has dredged the channel into the South Benson Marina, and there's an Ash Creek environmental group who has expressed concern about that's, I won't go into all the details, but damaging the environment. So the harbor master would be, I'm sure, in any sort of issue or conflict as that may progress, would be asked for the harbor master would be asked for his or her opinion on it. And if there was a boat sunk in the South Benson Marina and someone didn't want to remove it, the harbor master's authority would have to be likely be applied to do.
I asked them about South Benson. I said, what are you telling me? You're giving me South Benson? And they said, oh, no, that's different. The town, that's different. That's an anchorage, a town anchorage. It's not within our jurisdiction. Yours is harbor master.
Correct.
There's a boat sunk there.
But if there was an issue about navigation safety, and then there's also been discussion about dredging a channel into Pine Creek, and that there are numerous private docks in Pine Creek.
I know
I can imagine the harbor master would be asked to weigh in on something like that as well. And when we talked about this, the governor, the person from the governor's office, who's been very helpful with this, he said there's no requirement for the harbor master to have a harbor management plan. There are some towns without harbor management plans that have harbor masters.
Brantford, I think, is one.
That's not the issue, but what the job might entail. And in terms of the level of I think it's potentially more than just issuing a few permits for the boats off of Fairfield Beach.
And it's not clear to me that there are ever any boats that are moored over there anyway. I know there are anchors in the mud there, but at low tide, that's a mud flat.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but
what does happen over there is a lot of people drop an anchor.
Right.
So it's a real zoo over there on a summer afternoon.
Off the beach.
Talk about safety.
Off of Penfield.
Yeah. Off of Jennings. There's a lot of craziness over there, and
the harbor master's authority can be used, for enforcement of different matters in addition to mooring.
Right.
So in some towns, you know, and the municipal police department can, as you know, enforce state laws as well. So there are chances or opportunities or instances where the harbor master's authority to issue orders can be enforced locally and used to deal with certain problems that may arise.
But he'd be operating independent of the purview of the
Yeah.
Harbor Management Commission.
Right.
And you would have no
Yeah.
support from us
Right,
other
right.
than
Yeah.
as
It's a very
good
strange-
friends, because you're out of our
I said,
jurisdiction.
I got a whole new harbor to deal with here. And they said, well, when you get a chance next summer, you can go over there. I'm like,
I could see Parks and Rec, you know, having, I don't know what they might be, but having issues that theirs have to deal with, and that they could use the harbor master's authority to help them deal with it.
Right.
Either, and I can also see that this channel matter in Ash Creek becoming a
That's why they should have taken the boat.
Yeah,
but I'll get those, the letters and the agreements between the Shellfish
I
Commission
think I'd
and
like to see that. That's, yeah.
DEP from a few years ago, which no one probably remembers now.
Well, there is some good news that there was a boat, and one of the towns I represent is located just to the east of Bridgeport. And a couple came up last week from Texas and paid $1,500 for a boat, a little bit like your last boat that you had, a little similar to that cabin cruiser, if you want to call it that. And that they were heading back to Texas with the boat, believe it or not. But they decided, thank goodness, to go to Brantford first. So they made it all the way from Bridgeport to near Stratford when the boat started taking out water.
oh my God.
Coast Guard picked him up, dragged him up to the Bird's Eye ramp, and left the boat there and took off as the boat started to slowly sink and take the dock down with it, which required the town to call emergency crews because it's this massive thing dragged out of the water. So I'm thinking, just thank goodness they didn't go right when they pulled out of Bridgeport, because we'd have it sitting in Southport, like a sheen on the water, and then he had to get out there, and the Coast Guard I don't know how they done it.
Hit rocks.
They claimed they didn't hit anything. It just started sinking on its own. I'm sure they hit something.
Brantford's pretty bad.
No, they never made it that far. They only made it from Bridgeport to Stratford before it started taking on water. I'm thinking, thank goodness they didn't turn right, and they would have made it from Bridgeport to Southport.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's become quite now it's an abandoned boat.
I could just see him going across the rocks at the corner.
Sure.
They must have taken a shortcut.
At
Somewhere
2010.
pulling out.
You would know if you hit him, though.
Yeah.
Jeff, you ever said?
How do you want to leave this discussion about the area of your jurisdiction? Do you want to leave it as it stands and figure out how to deal with it?
You just want to figure out how to deal with it.
Okay.
With DEEP and,
So you're-
and the Fairfield Police, I talked to the officers already, introduced myself to them as well, because, they are law enforcement, and they recognized, I made a mention about this, they said, yeah, we figured that would be coming. And they said, if you need a ride down there, just call us, and we'll show you. But we don't think there's many moorings there either. They said
Yeah.
it's not an issue for them.
Yeah.
They have to, boats dragging and boats being
Yeah,
moored.
I think Kim's point is that it's opening Pandora's box about
Yeah,
where this
they
can
said
take
we're not
you.
really, they said there's a couple of floats, but there's usually, what are those floats?
Yeah.
So you're now not Harbor Master, Southport Harbor Master, you're Fairfield Harbor Master.
Fairfield and Southport, I guess.
Fairfield and Southport? Is that how we would describe, that would be your title, Fairfield and Southport? And as Southport Harbor Master, you're an ex officio member of the Southport Harbor Management Commission. As Fairfield Harbor Master, you're...
But I learned a number of towns don't have harbor management plans,
Right.
like Brantford, for instance,
Right.
doesn't,
Right.
which is probably, I assumed all towns would have adopted a plan.
Actually, the appointment of harbor masters works differently, if I remember correctly, depending on whether or not there's a harbor management plan.
Right, if there's a harbor management plan, the governor is required to appoint the harbor master from a list provided by
Right.
the commission.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Okay, anything else for today? All right, we're gonna stay after to look at the administrative going through the online mooring system, but it's not really decision-making, it's just administrivia. Anything from the public today, folks listening? All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.